Myself is Divya Bahal, Assistant Professor in Chemical Engineering Department at LJ Institute of Engineering and Technology. The subject that we are going to continue is Mass Transfer Operations 2. So moving forward with this adsorption chapter, right? Now, so in today's lecture we will start about adsorption equilibria. In last lecture we had a glimpse about what is equilibria, right? When we discuss about the isotherm. Okay, so when we are discussing about the isotherm, we must know how equilibrium is established. Okay, here, so first of all, few terminologies which you have to know. Okay, first clear your concept about isotherm and isobar. When you are plotting the equilibrium concentration of solute, okay, against the temperature at constant pressure, then that is your isobar. Okay, if you are plotting your equilibrium concentration of solution, okay, against pressure at constant temperature, then that is your isotherm. Now your adsorption, okay, here with pressure your concentration is changing. Okay, as you are changing the pressure, the rate of adsorption, okay, the amount, the solute which is present in your gas, okay, which is adsorbed on your adsorbent, that changes with the pressure. Hence we are more interested in isotherm. Okay, your whole process that is carried out at a constant temperature, and with change in pressure you are getting your equilibrium condition. Okay, so when you're generally your adsorption that is used to treat what gases. So in gases what is there? Partial pressure. The concentration is represented in terms of what? Partial pressure, right? So in gases the concentration is expressed in terms of partial pressure or mole percent, while in liquid you are representing at weight percent. Okay, your mole per liter, what is it? That is concentration. It is simply associated for what? Liquids. Okay, whereas for gases you are treating what? Pressure. Now, so here when we are talking about adsorption isotherm, what we are talking that at constant temperature, as you are changing the pressure of your solute, okay, of your gas, how much amount of that solute is transferring to adsorbent, we are more interested in that area, right? So this way your adsorption equilibria is for single gas system also. Okay, only one. Suppose take example of silica gel. Moisture is getting transferred into your silica gel, so that is only one system. Similarly for binary or multi-component mixture also, where more than one gases are adsorbed on your adsorbent, right? And liquid system also. So moving forward, first of all about the single gas system. Okay, only one component is there which is adsorbing on your adsorbent. So let's take an example. Suppose here we are taking activated carbon as your adsorbent. Okay, so your equilibrium curve, what would be it plotted against? Adsorbate, that is amount of solute which is adsorbed, right? Adsorbate versus equilibrium partial pressure of gas at constant temperature, right? So this is your equilibrium curve. Now if you are increasing the pressure, right, then the adsorption rate increases. It means more amount of solute is getting adsorbed on your adsorbent, right? Suppose in my container I am taking my adsorbent and my solute gas is present. If I am compressing that container, okay, I am compressing the lid of that container, what I am doing? I am increasing the pressure of the system. So because of that, more amount of solute will get transferred onto your adsorbent surface, right? Now, for different temperature, the pressure and adsorbent relation is different. Okay, this was one example at particular temperature. Suppose at 30 degrees Celsius, one experiment is done. Similarly, at 60 degrees Celsius, constant temperature, I am altering my pressure accordingly. So for different temperature condition, I will get different plot of your pressure versus adsorbent relation, right? Now, when we are talking about equilibrium condition, it means that is the maximum limit. So maximum limit is what here? Vapor pressure. Corresponding to that temperature, okay, suppose I am taking my experiment at 30 degrees Celsius. So corresponding to 30 degrees Celsius, my maximum limit is what? My vapor pressure. So up till that pressure only I can increase my pressure so as to increase the rate of adsorption, right? Now reverse is also true. If you are decreasing the pressure, then your desorption occurs. Desorption means removal of your solute gas from the adsorbent surface, right? So here you can see the example, right? First of all, your plot is what? Equilibrium partial pressure versus adsorbate, okay, amount of adsorbate. Again, now remember it, your expression is very important here. You are not expressing it in terms of mole fraction. Okay, this is mole ratio, kg adsorbed upon kg carbon. Okay, kg your adsorbent, kg carbon is what your adsorbent here, right? So you can see that. Take example of acetone, 160 degrees Celsius and 100 degrees Celsius, right? And 30 degrees Celsius. The vapor is same, okay? Now for different temperature you can see that I am getting different equilibrium curve. Now what is this? As I am increasing the pressure, the straight line, the curve which is increasing, the slope which is increasing, it shows that more amount of solute has been absorbed. Now vice versa. Now correspondingly see that your limit is what? Saturation vapor pressure at that corresponding temperature. So that is the maximum limit. Till B point only you can carry out your adsorbent. Once this B point has been reached, till infinite amount of time if you keep your solute gas with adsorbent, no more further adsorption will occur. That is your saturation limit at that particular temperature. If you have to change this equilibrium condition, again go back to the first lecture when we discuss about what is equilibrium. You have to disturb that equilibria by changing the temperature of the system here, because you're carrying out your adsorption at constant temperature, right? So this was about your adsorption equilibria. Now this is important topic, that is your heat of adsorption. So there are three kinds of heat of adsorption which can be studied here. First is differential, third is integral, and second is integral, and third is isosteric heat of adsorption. Now in differential heat of adsorption, what you are doing, it shows the rate of change of integral heat of adsorption with the change in adsorbent loading. Your integral heat of adsorption, what does it show? It shows that total enthalpy change, okay, it shows the total enthalpy change for zero adsorbent loading to final adsorbent loading at any temperature. Now, but isosteric heat of adsorption, how it is different? It is the ratio of change in adsorbent enthalpy. Enthalpy change of what? Adsorbate, the gas which you are adsorbing, okay, which you are adhering to the adsorbent, okay. Ratio of change in adsorbent enthalpy to change in adsorbed amount. Now first of all, let's understand the isosteric adsorption, right? Adsorption is what? It is your exothermic process, right? So it means heat is releasing here. Now, when heat is released, a part is taken up by your solid, okay, that is adsorbed by your adsorbate here, which is sticking to the adsorbent, and the rest is taken up by the surrounding, okay. Now, the energy which is absorbed by the solid, it increases its temperature, okay, because it is absorbing the energy, its temperature increases, and so the rise in temperature, it slows down the kinetics. Kinetics of what? Kinetics of your adsorption process. Okay. So here with respect to temperature, you can relate it that your isosteric adsorption is independent of your adsorption loading, and you can see we are using what? Clausius-Clapeyron equation here. Okay. It relates your pressure, enthalpy, change in enthalpy here, right? What we discussed, it is ratio of change in adsorbent enthalpy. We are using this Clausius-Clapeyron equation because it relates your change in enthalpy with the temperature. Now, we discussed about adsorption loading, okay? For differential, integral method, we discussed about adsorption loading. So, what is adsorption loading? It is also known as adsorption capacity. It is the amount of adsorbate taken up by the adsorbent per unit mass of your adsorbent, okay? What is the capacity of your adsorbent? That is your loading. So, your isosteric heat of adsorption, it is independent of your adsorption loading. Okay, it does not depends upon the capacity. Whereas your differential and integral, okay, those two depends on your loading, on the adsorption capacity. Okay, but your isosteric heat of adsorption, it do not depends upon that. It depends upon the temperature which is changing of your system, right? Now the next topic is adsorption of solute from dilute solution, okay, liquid. Here now I am switching to liquid, okay. So dilute solution, it means the amount of your solute in your liquid, that is very less, okay. Now see, whenever adsorption occurs in a liquid, okay, it is possible that along with solute, your solvent also adsorb on your adsorbent surface, okay. If I am using activated charcoal along with water, along with your impurity, okay, suppose any solute impurity is there, along with that solute impurity water will also adsorb on it. So now mathematically, which we are calculating, that is your apparent adsorption, okay, where we are only considering that only solute is transferring, right? So what you are doing, how mathematically we are starting it, okay, when your initial concentration of your solute is suppose C0, okay. Your concentration is what? Mass of solute upon volume of liquid, because concentration is what? Mole per liter or kg per liter, right? So C0 is what? Your initial concentration. Final concentration is what is your final concentration after adsorption? How much amount of solute is remaining? That is your final concentration, right? So that is your TC star. That is equilibrium concentration, maximum limit. Okay. So of course concentration of solute has been decreased here. Okay. Once you are adding your adsorbent, transfer of solute will occur. So in final point concentration has been decreased. Okay. So now how we are calculating it? We pay attention to this part. Okay. The calculation is tricky part. So suppose adsorbent, the amount of weight you have taken is, its weight is x. Okay. Unit is what? It is in terms of mass. It might be gram, kg, right? And the solution which you are taking, that is Y volume, liter or ml, right? Now what is V here? Okay, V is your volume of solution per mass of adsorbent. Okay, for that much amount of mass of adsorbent, how much it is being treated? So V is that factor, volume solution, okay, upon mass of adsorbent. Now, so what is the amount of mass that has been adsorbed? Okay, so that is your V into difference in concentration. Okay, so see how we are balancing the unit. Volume of liquid upon mass of adsorbent into what is the unit of concentration? Mass solute upon volume of liquid. So hence this V into delta C, okay, concentration difference, what is it? That is mass of solute adsorbed per mass of adsorbent. Okay, so this shows you what is the amount of solute which has been adsorbed per mass of adsorbent. Okay, suppose you are using 1 gram of adsorbent. So in that 1 gram, how much mass of solute has been adsorbed? That is your V into delta C. Okay, where C star is your equilibrium concentration. Okay, so here, so this is the value of apparent adsorption because actual cannot be measured. So here with respect to solute, the adsorption is measured, right? Now for dilute solution, adsorption isotherm. So this was what? That is the amount of mass that has been adsorbed on your adsorbent. Okay, now if I have to form an equilibrium relationship, okay, I have to know an adsorption. What is the adsorption isotherm? So what I am doing, you are substituting it in your Freundlich isotherm. So for dilute solution, this is your equilibrium relationship by Freundlich isotherm. Okay, so C star is equal to K into V C naught minus C star N, same as that it was in your Freundlich isotherm. Okay, but here instead of your normal concentration, okay, there we were using partial pressure. Here instead of partial pressure, you are substituting this value. That is your apparent adsorption per unit mass adsorbent. So this relation, okay, that is your Freundlich isotherm for dilute liquid solution. Clear? Now the next topic is your pressure swing adsorption. Okay, so principle is very simple. It works on the principle of alteration of pressure. Okay, as pressure of solute increases, it means adsorption capacity increases. As you decrease the pressure, desorption occurs. Okay, so this is the principle. Pressure swing, okay, swinging of pressure, altering the pressure causes your adsorption and desorption. So first of all, it is carried out at high pressure, okay, because at high pressure more adsorption is there. Okay, now the flow of gases stop at the breakthrough point is reached and the adsorbent is regenerated by reducing the pressure. Simple. In one container, okay, you are carrying out your adsorption by increasing the pressure. A breakthrough point means a final limit has been reached till where your adsorption can occur. Okay, now after that what you are doing, you are regenerating your adsorbent by decreasing the pressure. Okay, so this way your adsorption occurs in your pressure swing adsorption. So what we are doing, we use two adsorbent vessel which allows continuous process. Okay, so it also permits your pressure equalization. It means when the gas is leaving the vessel of your depressurized vessel, okay, then that gas can be used to pressurize second vessel. It will be clear when you see an example. So this is your example. Okay, so two vessels are kept. So in first stage you can see that your compressed air is fed to the first molecular sieve bed. Your molecular sieve bed is your adsorbent. Okay, so nitrogen is trapped. So our aim is to adsorb what? Nitrogen. So you can see that nitrogen is trapped while oxygen is allowed to flow. So you can see the yellow dots that are flowing out from bed 1. That is your oxygen. Now in stage 2 you can see that when sieve in the first bed has become full of nitrogen, then air flow is then directed to second bed. Okay, so you can judge that from in first bed breakthrough point has been reached. Okay, that is the maximum limit which has been reached. Now you're continuing it in your second bed, where again your molecular sieves are suspended. Okay, so in stage 3, as the oxygen bed separates the oxygen from nitrogen of the first bed, vents its nitrogen into the atmosphere. So now your adsorption is occurring in your second bed, whereas the first bed, okay, now their desorption is occurring. You are reducing the pressure so that that nitrogen which is trapped in your adsorbent, okay, that is a regeneration process. Your nitrogen is taken out from your adsorbent. So now your fresh surface has been available. Now in stage 4, compressed air is once again fed to first bed and the process is repeated continuously. So you can see that when your first bed becomes saturated, you are using your second bed. Okay, when you are using your second bed, that first bed is depressurized and your trapped adsorbent, okay, here nitrogen, that is removed from it. Okay, so this way cycle continues. So this is your continuous operation. So now the next topic is your fluidized bed and teeter beds. So first of all, what is the difference between fluidized bed and teeter beds? In your fluidized bed, you are using the adsorbent particles of 20 mesh size, okay, and the operating velocity is what? About 10 times more than minimum fluidization velocity. Whereas in your teeter bed, the adsorbent particles used, okay, the size is about 10 mesh size. So you can see that very coarse particles of adsorbent is used, okay. It means very high interfacial areas available for adsorption to occur, and the operating velocity is 2 times the minimum fluidization velocity. Now teeter bed gives you better adsorption because fluid and solid interaction is more. Okay, now when we are talking about fluidization, let's have a quick revision. This might have been studied in your fluid flow operation. Okay, so in a column, you are keeping your packing material. Here you can take example of your adsorbent, okay, coarse particles of adsorbent. Now, what is fluidization? Okay, you are converting your solid particles into fluid. Okay, the physical characteristics are that of your fluid. So how it happens? Okay, now first of all we have to know what is void here. That is the gap between solid particles. Okay, when they are kept in a reactor, okay, in a bed, in a reactor, these particles between them, they have very small voids. Okay, now fluidization, what is happening? From the below you are passing your gas. In adsorption, the solute gas is passed. Okay, so as gas is passed from the below, okay, now because of that pressure drop will occur, because gas is exerting some pressure from the below and on the top there is no pressure. So a pressure drop is there because gas have to move from bottom to top, right? So pressure drop is maximum. Now continuously increasing the velocity, at one point what will happen, that the pressure drop, that would become equal to your weight of solid. Okay, now that is the threshold point. Okay, that is the onset of fluidization. Further increasing velocity, what will cause? It will cause a fluidization. Okay, the voidage will increase enough. Your particles will suspend in the air. They will behave like a fluid. Okay, like if you see animated, you can see it will appear like a boiling liquid. Okay, now that is your minimum fluidization velocity. That is when your delta P, pressure drop, becomes equal to the weight of solid, right? If you are further increasing the velocity, okay, a maximum you are increasing it, at one point beyond terminal velocity, your solid will get carried away. Okay, so this was about your fluidization. So you can see that expansion, you have increased further velocity, so you can see that more your solid particles are suspended in the air. So in your fluidized bed and teeter bed, same is the principle used. Okay, the particles which are kept in the bed, okay, in your reactor, that are your adsorbent particles, fine size adsorbent particles are there, and the solute gas, okay, which has solute to be removed from it, that is passed from the bottom. So that was about your fluidized bed and your teeter bed. That was for today's lecture. Thank you.